This is From the Bleachers.
Get the duck boats ready!
Your home for all things sports.
Krogan boats go!
With Dan Ball, Connor Byrne, Matt McAuliffe, and Nick Bodwin.
Red Sox fans have longed to hear it!
On 98.1.
It's out of here! Bartolo has done it!
WQAQ.
It's 8 o'clock on a Monday night. It is From the Bleachers here on Monday, April 6th. Connor Byrne, Matt McAuliffe, and Nick Bodwin. I'm Dan Ball. Thanks so much for joining us. It is show number 3 here in the coronavirus COVID-19 experience. We're all joining you from various locations around the world, making sure that we keep that secret so nobody can come and pay us visits during this because social distancing. But we have a lot to talk about today on the show, and I want to start with something that Matt was reading in our kitchen earlier today. Tom Brady put out a Players Tribune article. It was titled "The Only Way Is Through," which is very philosophical and meta. So Matt, I'll let you start. Give a little bit of a synopsis from what you saw in this article.
Yeah, he kind of showed his personality a little bit. Actually, a lot of it. It was really cool the way he wrote it. He started with arriving in New England and like flying across country after getting the call that he was drafted, and he never knew he was going to be in New England for long, let alone start a family there. And he just goes into his 20 years with the Pats, and it kind of had this tone of thank you very much for everything. And also, I need to prove everyone wrong. So that's what it felt like the two tones were. The beginning was thank you, New England, for everything. It didn't seem harsh. It didn't seem rude or like there was an ugly breakup. And then he goes on to basically say Tampa is a new challenge and a new scenery and what he wanted. It sounded like he wanted a new challenge. And I made a funny analogy earlier in the day with you, Dan, where he's been eating orange Skittles for 20 years and he wants to know what the red one tastes like. He wants a new challenge.
Why'd you go with Skittles there?
I don't know. I don't know.
It did sound like more of a Starburst example, but I see what you're trying to say.
You could have been like he's eating cheese pizza the whole time, and now he's dipping into a little meat lovers.
That's what he wants.
Been having vanilla ice cream the whole time, and now he wants a scoop of chocolate.
I haven't had a meat lovers pizza in years.
So long.
Disgusting.
Oh, stop. Come on. Every once in a while.
Like maybe since I was 8.
I hate them. I hate them. I'm not a big stuff on my pizza kind of guy to begin with. I think pineapple and whatever the ham or the hell. Nope.
Hawaiian's so good.
Hawaiian, yeah. No, I'm not a Hawaiian guy. I'm not a meat lovers guy. Can't do it if you have mushrooms. Nope.
Pepperoni.
Yeah, cheese and pepperoni I'm fine with. Like I like the occasional sausage.
Sausage from the right
place.
place. Got to be from the right place for the sausage, but I'm there.
Yeah, people who go like sausage, like hamburger meat. What else do they put on meat lovers? Matt, you got to know this one.
Yeah, it's usually bacon, pepperoni, ham.
Processed garbage from Domino's that they dye like red and brown and try to play it off as meat.
You suck.
Cut it up into squares.
Oh man, stop the clock. 3 minutes into the show.
I can't do it.
We've gone off. I can do it to a certain degree. It seems like a lot of the more meats that you put on, the more greasy it gets.
Yeah, like why not just have like 10 pieces of cheese? Like, I don't know. Like I'd rather just hammer 10 slices of cheese, but only have like 2 meat lovers. Like it's way too much. It all just comes together in a bad way. I'm just saying.
It's okay. It's okay.
Anyways,
talking about the greatest
Skittles, Starburst,
quality.
pizza, whatever. So your main argument, aside from the ridiculous analogy, is that you believe that he's thankful. Well, now I'm going to ask you this because this is a conversation that we got into. What specifically is he thankful for, and is he thanking in this article?
Yes, he does thank in this article. He thanks the fans a lot for what they gave, and he thanks the organization too, because you spend 20 years in a place, you have to love that place, and it'll stay with you for the rest of your life. And he talks about the seasons in New England and how coming from California to New England, he could see all 4 seasons and how cool it was to experience like the cold and the fall and then the humidity of summer all in one place. But it was more reflective, which I liked. There was no, like, it didn't seem like there were any digs. It was just him reflecting on having a good time in New England. And he is just a guy who craves to win. And I think it came down, we were saying earlier, the dollars and cents didn't match up. It seemed like he wanted a change of pace, a new challenge, like we were saying with the Skittles or the Meat Lovers Pizza. He wanted something new. And he probably, it was also, he's a family guy now. And Bill Belichick was probably really pushing him to his limit with what he wanted him to do for off-season stuff and in practice. And
it doesn't add up. Like, no one said a lick about this until like 2 weeks before the Tennessee game. And then the Tennessee game came and they're like, well, if they lose, we don't know what's going to happen. Then they lost. And everyone was asking him about it. And then he didn't say a word. No reporters knew jack. Like,
I think people knew that this was going
people
to be
were assuming, and they
question.
weren't wrong to assume that, but it still just doesn't add up. Like, yeah, Tampa has a lot more offensive weapons. Their conference is harder, right? Like their division, the NFC South is not easy to begin with. You have to go up against the Saints. Like, Drew Brees still has a ton of weapons there. They have a great defense. They're capable of getting over the hump. They just haven't shown that in recent years, but they have the team to. The new look Panthers, under Rivera with Bridgewater, they still have weapons. Yeah, Kuechly retired, but it's not like that.
Rivera's not there anymore.
Not Rivera, the new guy. What's his name?
From
Baylor.
Oh my God, Baylor.
Matt Rule, right?
Yeah. Matt Rule, yeah.
Yes.
Like the guys, we don't know how well it's going to translate to the NFL, but he's won and moved up the ranks in a very, healthy progression for a head coach. You have a guy who's bounced up and down in the league in Bridgewater. I think he's great, not just from last year, but when he started using the 2 gloves. I don't like it's and who else is in that the Falcons. Like you never know what you're gonna get with the Falcons. Like, they sucked 2 years ago, then last year they're okay. Like, they'll probably
be around. Todd Gurley too, so they added another weapon.
They did add Todd Gurley. Matt Ryan's 3 years removed from an MVP. Like, he's not 40 yet. I mean, it's a good like, there are the AFC East is worse now, I think. I mean, the Jets and the Dolphins are not great, and we don't know what the Pats are with no starting quarterback. Like, the Bills are easily the favorite.
I think it's the Bills conference this year.
And hey, listen, the Dolphins, they very well might compete this year if they hold on to their draft picks, or if they have some movement at the draft, and if they draft great value at the spots that they're at, or trade up and trade down and get even better value with more picks. They made some big they made some big off-season signings to address the defensive side of the ball.
And the coaching staff has a special teams coach from the Patriots. And if you study at Harvard, man, you can transfer it over.
Here we go.
I'm with you where the Dolphins are going to look scarier than people think.
Yeah, I think if they have a good draft, like they stunk, realized it, made smart signings, and positioned themselves in the draft. To me, I don't think the Jets have done that. They haven't really drafted well. They don't seem to have any sort of direction. They bring in a head coach who gets fired from Miami 2 years ago, the same season that they fire their head coach. Doesn't make sense. I don't think they're going in the right direction. I think the Dolphins are in a better spot. I think the Patriots are more like the Jets than the Dolphins in terms of trajectory.
Yeah.
And I think that can all change with the draft, and Bill always seems to have things figured out. But, the weapons with the best player of all time were concerned last year. Even if Stidham has a good rookie season, we'll call it rookie season because he didn't really play much last year, how well are they going to be? And I think if you look at it from, like we talked about, the NFC South compared to the AFC East, like the AFC East could be one of the weaker divisions in football. Like the NFC East is one of the weaker divisions in football. The AFC West is not great. I mean, I don't know. You can kind of throw your ring around the rosy here with who you want to take as the leader in the clubhouse.
But I'm saying, and I'm more saying towards Tom Brady from a personal standpoint, just wanted a new challenge, and maybe he saw this. He definitely saw this coming, where the Patriots weren't signing the right guys for him. They didn't have enough money for him, and he said, "I just need a change."
Yeah, I don't blame him. I just think it's a weird time. Like, realistically, how many years is he going to play there? 2, 3 max?
From that Players Tribune article, more than one, but it's
he signed a 2-year deal with a third as an option, I believe.
I think after those 2, you got to wrap it up, right?
Like, what's the point in going to play somewhere else for 2 years when you've done everything in New England?
Proving people wrong.
Then that brings the question, and Nick, I want to get your answer on that. What is the motivation for Brady to go somewhere new?
I think, like Matt said, and other people have said too, like he just wants to prove that he can win without Belichick on his own. But I don't really think people have ever questioned. Like, I don't know where all this came from. Like, to me, it just felt like out of nowhere, everyone was like, oh, well, he has this thing in his contract where he can't get franchise tag, and he's set to become a free agent, and now we actually don't know if he's going to resign because he hasn't resigned, and he's never had all these things answered, and blah, 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 blah. But the guy has 6 rings, and he's done things with a lot, a little, and a ton in between. So I don't really know. Like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
He
Like,
did seem out of favor very quickly this year.
Say again?
He seemed to kind of fall out of favor quickly this year. Like, he went from the GOAT and a perennial Super Bowl champion to seemed to kind of be jumping
Dan,
ship.
you just cut out big time there.
Really?
Yeah, you froze.
Froze like this?
Talking. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. Like, it doesn't. It all to me, it just came like so fast.
Yeah.
Like, why did people all of a sudden at 42 start questioning, well, is Brady even that good? Like, how many people have played until they're 40, let alone 42, let alone 45, what he might actually play till? Like, why is all this coming now? I just didn't get that.
Yeah, people were also waiting to see what would happen that season, because when it comes to Tom Brady and he's in the playoffs, you have no idea what's going to happen. He could – like he did. He lost to the Titans first round, or he could have literally took a bunch of street players and brought them to the Super Bowl again. People were just waiting to see the result of the playoff, and when they saw how drastic and dramatic it ended, it really hyped up the news coverage.
So before we move on, I want to get input. What is the floor in the ceiling for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers this year? What can they do now that they have Tom Brady?
Your floor is
10 wins.
I was going to say your floor, like your bottom is 8-8, and your ceiling is a Super Bowl.
Oh, why?
Yeah,
Dude, think about how productive.
That they're a wild card team.
Wait, repeat that, Connor.
When
the ceiling isn't
signed, we were on this show talking about how they are a wild card team at best.
The ceiling isn't what I think. The ceiling is how high can this team go? I think that, they're an 8-8, 9-7, maybe wild card team. That's what I think. But if you have Mike Evans, Tom Brady, Godwin, like these weapons are scary.
Listen, like I couldn't name a single person on their defense. Their offense is legit. If you look at what are they, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They were 7-9 last year.
Yes.
And Winston threw 30 picks.
Okay. Well,
think about how many games it was about turnovers or not scoring points on the offense. Maybe
didn't they lose their last
problem.
game of the year on like a game losing pick
Yeah,
six?
that was when he threw like the 30th pick.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you eliminate, let's say Brady throws 10 picks. Just that's 20 less turnovers over the course of a season that could come at any point of the game. You're telling me that's only going to translate to 2 more wins than what they had last year? I don't care how great your defense is. Tom Brady's not throwing half of that, even close to half of that.
I know.
Number of interceptions. And turnovers are going to lose games.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Defensively speaking, they were right exactly in the middle of the league. They were 15th in terms of yards against per game. But I mean, this team they were 3rd in the league in yards of total offense, and they didn't make the playoffs.
Yeah.
So I think Nick, to your point, the turnovers could really could at least flip that record around.
Look at how many more times a game your defense is stepping onto the field when you throw 30 picks. Like that's a lot. Like when was the last time that happened? I for like a guy who was supposed to be decent and who put up 6 yards and 30 touchdowns. Like that's crazy. So I think Brady will be good for them, and I think I also like how good is the deep ball threat? Like they have the weapons to go run. Can Brady get it to him? He has these 6'2" to 6'5" massive receivers with a lot of speed and strength. He really hasn't had that since Randy Moss.
Do you think Arians will run the deep threat a lot?
I mean, that's not who Brady is.
I think that O.J. Howard is about to be one of the best tight ends in the league this year. I'll say that.
I'm with Dan. I think that's a much greater take.
Godwin's a smaller and crafty guy who can play like that slot game or like bubble screen, jet sweep kind of like trickery play stuff. Like he can be that guy, but how effective is Mike Evans going to be unless it's in the red zone? Like Mike Evans is probably going to have a ton of touchdowns next year. They'll probably play him a little bit in tight on crossing routes, but is he going to have 100, 200 plus yardage games all the time? I don't think so, because that's not who Brady is, and that's not the receiver that Mike Evans is. One of them is going to have to change their game play, and I don't know if Mike Evans in his somewhat prime is going to change his compared to Brady.
Yeah, I think you make a very good point, and we can transition out after this one. Godwin seems like he is a better candidate to fit the Brady system. They also do have Cameron Brate, who was supposed to be really good as a tight end, but he's kind of fallen off. But if you run those like rest in peace, Gronk, Aaron Hernandez, 2 tight end sets with 2 guys that can catch the ball, it's going to be very pass heavy though, because their running game is atrocious. But
they'll probably
I think they could get to 10 wins.
No doubt.
I think 10 has got to be the floor. Ceiling to me is 13 or 14 first round at least. 13 win team. 13 win team. That's actually a lot.
Like the 10 to 12 range, maybe?
I would say.
Here, let's play. Do you want to play the schedule game? We can try to. Oh, I guess.
Yeah.
Not. Give me one sec. We'll play the schedule game before we go.
How many wins did it take to get into a wild card last year?
Say again?
How many wins did it take to get into a wild card?
Well, the NFC last year was such a crapshoot with like the NFC East. They were like 2 games above 500 or 1 game above 500. So the winner of that division got in. But other than that, it was pretty competitive. Like San Fran and Seattle were going back and forth. Like Seattle was a wild card team, and they would have been probably first in a couple other divisions divisions.
Okay, so 2020. These are just opponents. They're not really in any order. It's listed by home and away because they haven't put out the full schedule because Corona. So at home, Green Bay,
Nope.
Kansas City,
0-2.
Minnesota.
Yep.
It's tight.
I don't know yet.
New Orleans.
Yeah, you could be 0-4.
God almighty.
It gets a little bit easier. The Chargers,
Sure.
the Falcons,
Okay.
the new look Panthers.
Oh man.
You could be 2-5 or
Yeah.
3-4 right
Yeah.
now.
And
Jesus.
then you finish your home schedule with the Rams.
That's fine.
And
So-
we don't know what the Rams are going to be.
Yeah, the Rams. The Rams. Have you seen their new logo? They ain't looking for.
Yeah. Then on the road, they're at Chicago.
Let me say one thing real quick.
Yes.
If Tampa Bay is going to be defined by their – I am confident under Brady that they will win all of the games that they're supposed to. I'm confident to say that.
Yeah.
With their head coach, now Brady at the helm, and their offensive weapons and an average defense, like you said, they're going to come down to the big-time games. And at home against those opponents is going to be – like those are going to be games that you absolutely need to win, whether it's early on, middle, or towards the end of the season.
Right.
But
Yeah.
continue. So Chicago on the road.
Chicago on the road. After that, the Lions, the Broncos,
Win.
and the Raiders.
So
Yeah,
you
you could-
4-0.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could win those.
So you could be 6-5 or 7-4 or 7-4.
Yeah, and then you do your division again. So Saints, Falcons, Panthers,
Mm-hmm.
which should be 2-1, and then you're at New York to play the Giants. So
A lot's going to depend on. You got to split with New Orleans. You got to sweep the Falcons. Maybe
You got to split with Carolina.
Split with
least.
Carolina or sweep. Cannot lose. In the division games are going to be critical for sure.
you can't lose those first four on the road that I said. The Bears, the Lions, the Broncos, and the Raiders. You got to sweep those.
Got to
Yeah.
win that. Got to beat the Chargers at home. Got to beat the Giants on the road. Realistically, I think I don't know about floor ceiling. I think they could be an 11 win team on the nose. That's what I might put them at, 11-5.
Yeah.
I think they'll probably lose to the Saints. They'll probably lose to the Packers. They'll probably lose to the Panthers. They'll probably lose to the Vikings.
And then the Chiefs may be your fifth team, depending
Chiefs
on what they
might
end
be
up being.
there. Yep.
Yeah,
I think so.
I think a lot of prognosticators are going to end up in that 10-6, 11-5 area that you are.
Yep. And, we don't know what's going to happen with the rest of the division and stuff. So,
Right. Should be interesting. Moving on, I wanted to discuss this not because there's any real substance to it, but I just thought it was funny from ESPN today. They wrote an article that put out the option: would you want to see a home run derby after 10 innings of a regular season baseball game?
100%.
Basically the
Absolutely.
equivalent to the shootout in hockey. I'll let Connor go first because Nick and Matt have weighed in. But Connor, your thoughts on this idea?
Dumb as hell.
Okay, expand.
People hate the shootout in hockey. They like it as an idea because it is something new and it is something exciting. But after like 2 weeks of it, it's going to be the same thing. We have talked at extended lengths on this show that people that don't like baseball are never going to like baseball. So if you're sitting there, you're already invested in the game. Just play it as is. I don't want I don't need my decision to be made off whether Pete Alonso can hit more home runs than Bryce Harper can.
I feel like it would be so cool for the fans, though, like walking out, like you guys, it's like your team essentially walks off if you win. Like your guy hits, like say it's the first to 5 home runs. Like whoever can do it quick. I don't know. You pick a number, whatever. Like it's gonna keep people engaged more, and people are gonna be standing up the whole time.
But 3.5 hours.
Like who? Like no one sits through 16 or 15 or even 13 innings. Like they'll stay. Okay, well we're gonna sit through 1 inning of extra innings, and then if not, we get to see a home run derby. Like that would be sick, and that would keep a lot more people.
It would be sick to see Sidney Crosby going to try and score a goal, but you hate that.
I don't hate the shootout. I think the point system at time. I don't know. I'm actually. I really don't have any complaints with that. I think in playoffs, obviously not. Like that shouldn't happen in playoffs. Like you play until the winner is decided. But for regular season games, like there's already so many. Like the problem people have is everything's too damn long. Like no one wants to sit through an extra 5 innings of baseball. That's half a game after a game.
How about this, Connor? If it goes to 13 innings, that's the point where I'm like, all right, wrap this up. Like let's wrap this up. Let's do a home run derby.
I agree, wrap this up, but I think you guys are not thinking about it like we don't already have this in hockey, and it's universally hated.
I wouldn't say it's necessarily universally hated.
I don't know. I like a shootout.
I see so many people on Twitter complain about shootouts in hockey.
Well, people on Twitter don't know anything.
Okay.
Like I'm just saying. Like
Connor has a point that it gets its fair share of heat.
Yes.
And mind you, I have the home run derby champion sitting behind me. Like
never heard of him.
But like, so yes, we'd end up winning a good amount of those, but at the same time, that's not the game.
You play to win the game. Before I propose something else that I've seen, Sophia Alfieri joins the show. What's going on?
Hi, team.
How are you?
Hey, what's up?
I'm good. How are you?
Carpe diem, baby.
So, Connor, what they do in the minor leagues is they put the previous batter on second base to start the inning.
Yeah, that's dumb.
I like that.
I'm gonna be honest. I've enjoyed watching it for my time working in minor league baseball, but both Connor and Nick said no, so I want to hear why.
Nick, you go first.
I just feel like that's like manipulating the game a little bit more than a home run derby. Like anyone, you can pick anyone on your team for the home run derby.
All of a sudden, a pitcher is coming out of the stretch. Is not coming out of the stretch anymore. He's coming from is no longer coming out of a windup.
In the windup.
People don't do as well when players are on base because then they have to focus on who's on base. You have to make certain pitches, and you have to go for the ground ball. You can't give up a fly ball too deep because then they're going to advance.
You got to hold.
Connor, I would argue that's exactly the point.
Okay.
That's the point. You're trying to speed up the game and make it end quicker.
But you're also screwing what the pitcher is able to do.
Bro.
Yeah, but okay, so let me ask you something. If you do a home run derby, who's pitching? You do have a designated home run derby pitcher on your.
Got to be like a bench coach.
The BP.
Okay, the BP guy. Okay.
Okay.
Or the
okay.
Catcher.
All right, Matt's been sitting on something and reacting in very gifable ways.
You said it's manipulating the game. What do they do in college football? They manipulate the game. They set it at the 25-yard line, and you battle like dogs. What happens in the NBA?
That's different. It's timed.
It's a completely different.
Football is timed, dude. It's timed. Football is timed, and you can still come out in a tie. That's completely different.
In college football, the overtime is not timed. You set up at the 25-yard line. If you score, you get to rebuttal. If you don't rebuttal, game over.
Okay, but then Seth Lugo's not going to throw a curveball because he's afraid to hang one and plant one 45 feet.
Guess what, Seth? Step up. That's extra innings. Like it's high. That's overtime. It's high intensity. Look at playoff hockey. Overtime. It's high intensity. You manipulate the game by 1 goal wins it.
As I will say, as somebody who's been in the park to see it, it's led to some electric games. But it's also led to some games that have still gone 12, 13 innings.
That's the thing. It doesn't you can still have that time. Like it might not be decided in a half inning or an inning. Like I think the home run derby would be a little bit more entertaining, and it also puts like an end to the time argument, which I think is the main reason why all of these things are happening.
Right.
The more we talk about it, I think the electric factor of the runner on second base, maybe, but
it's
if we're deciding between, I don't know. I like
ahead.
the home run derby style idea better.
People
or like
are
a
not gonna
game
come
within the
over to
game.
baseball because who already think it's too long because all of a sudden, in the 10th inning we're having a home run derby. Baseball needs to accept who it is and what it is.
But if you change it though, like what if like in hockey, like what if you make it to after the 10th inning, right? You get 1 inning of extra innings, and then you do the home run derby. At that point, both teams get a point, and then whoever wins the home run derby gets 2 points for the win.
I like the point system idea for that. System idea.
Also, I hate to throw this in there too. You guys are going to make fun of me, but we have to think about it because this is where the world is heading. Think about a gambling standpoint too. If the more runs that are
bet
out
on the
there,
home run derby too.
Exactly. I hear you. I think the home run derby is a good idea, but then I don't want a guy in the locker room talking to the press. It's my bench coach's fault why we lost. He couldn't throw me good pitches. I want a guy on second where it's.
If you're blaming a bench coach in the major leagues, like take a hike, pal.
I understand.
If you're telling me you can hit 100 mile an hour, like you're gonna blame your bench coach for not breaking.
When
Connor,
Alonso doesn't get a fastball or a lob right down the middle, he's getting like breaking pitches because the bench coach doesn't have it today.
Fans are gonna boo
to decide a game.
Okay. So I think you should probably have the ability to be able to name your pitcher. Like you have to write it on your lineup card when you submit.
Pay Dave Longstreet like $30,000 and just have him be the designated guy for both teams.
No, get out of here.
Yeah, but then you're like,
dude, it's not a bad idea. You're telling me you
Jerry,
couldn't find some
your
kid.
assignment today is to go give up bombs to Pete.